Today's episode is presented by Lodestar, the fee experts.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Lending Leaders. My name is Alayna Gardner, and this week I've joined by Olga Faynshteyn. She's the business development manager at LenderLogix. But more excitedly, and the thing we're going to talk about this week is you got to use your own products to buy your house.
I did, and it was awesome, and I'm very excited to talk about it. So thanks for having me on.
Of course. Well, before we jump into that, we always like to start off by asking people kind of how did you end up in the mortgage industry and end up in this space?
Of course, yeah. So just like probably the majority of us, I was not planning on working in the mortgage industry, and I just kind of stumbled upon it. So first job out of college, I have a psych degree. And I didn't know what to do with it. So I ended up getting an outsourced sales development job where I was actually working with the LenderLogix team. So that was how I got introduced to Pat specifically. And from there, I ended up leaving that company and just kept in touch with Pat and the guys that founded the company. And I remember looking at my husband and I was like, at the time we were just dating, I was like, if they ever offer me a job, I'm going to drop whatever I'm doing and I'm going to take it. And that's actually exactly what happened. And I ended up starting with them in May of 2020. So very interesting time to really dive right into the mortgage industry.
Yeah, I also joined during the pandemic and it feels like we've experienced a lot in 3.5 years. Like I feel like we've gone through, we've seen the gambit.
Right.
Just about a month ago, you got to experience something that people in the industry honestly love happening is you became a homeowner for the first time. So can you tell us just a little bit about that process and then how your experience in the industry changed how you navigated through it?
Yeah, of course. So as you know, we're on the lender and vendor side here. So we know that going into purchasing a home, it's a big purchase and you should get pre-approved before you even start the process. So that's exactly what we did. We, obviously used a lender that we work with. So we got to use all of our own technology on that, which was very cool. But just getting pre-approved and kind of having a plan in place, I would say it was the best way to start. Like we went into it, we knew, all right, we're looking to purchase within X amount of time. We had non-negotiables that we had set right away where we were like, okay, we need this in a home. We don't need this. And then everything else just kind of fell into place. And a lot of that I feel like has to do with just being aware of what that process looks like and having a loan officer as well that I could trust and I can come to with questions and not worry that, oh, this is a dumb question. Oh, you should know this because you work for a vendor that we use and things like that. So it was really nice to just have people that I felt comfortable coming to and asking questions along with my own knowledge and experience.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to be able to ask those questions even when you're in the industry. I was actually in a session at the Mortgage Collaborative event, and one of the speakers had mentioned she is a licensed LO, right? And she does loans every day. But her and her husband decided to move to a new state. She wasn't used to doing business there. And she actually had someone else do her loan. And she had lots of questions because she just wasn't used to that process, right?
Yeah.
So having someone, no matter how well you feel like you know the process, to kind of be that holding your hand in your specific scenario, right? I feel like it's so important.
Exactly.
And you mentioned a little bit about how you got to use your suite of tools. What was your biggest takeaway kind of from using it as a home buyer? Did you give your dev team notes? I want to know.
Yeah. So I was ready to absolutely tear them apart. I was like, I'm going to find everything wrong. And, this is how we're going to fix it. And I didn't expect to find anything wrong. Our developers are amazing. They, really take the feedback that we get from our clients. And there's a very specific reason for every, feature that we build out and things like that. I think the biggest takeaway is really that technology truly simplifies the process. Without having a digital forward mortgage experience, you're losing out on a lot. One of those things being time. We had a hybrid closing, which in New York State, that was, our option there. So we were able to do, half of that in, an e-close kind of setting, where the rest was when we were at the closing table, it was like a 15-minute process and we were out of there. It wasn't anything crazy. I didn't I wasn't nervous that, I have to look through stacks and stacks of documents. I was able to do that all up front. So that was really cool too. But yeah, just as being a tech vendor in the mortgage industry, there's a reason why vendors like us and vendors all over are building these tools. And it really does help the home buyer at the end of the day. And the home buyer is the why for all of us. So, having that experience, having it be so easy, it was great. Like our point of sale, we recently launched that. So being able to, while it's still kind of a work in progress where we're making so many updates regularly, being able to see, where it started versus when I was using it, where we were, it was very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. And I feel like it's so cool to get to use your own technology for personal purposes. My husband and I are currently in the process of just figuring out how much we need to save to buy a house, right? We live in Pennsylvania. It's a very expensive state to close in, fun fact.
Yep.
And it's just been really helpful. We were debating on what county to buy in, right? Is well, do we want to look at this area or this area?
Right.
And looking at our closing costs, and I've legitimately gone into our calculator and done the math and said, okay, well, this is how much we can afford in this area and that area. Here's how much more we would need to save. And I just think it's so fun to get to use your own tools.
So when the time comes for you with, you going through that and kind of looking, I mean, we all work in the industry. We know that you're not just finding a house and lucking out. That's not, how it's going these days. So we do have a tool called Quick Qual, which is an adjustable pre-approval letter. And being able to use it as the borrower instead of, showing loan officers across the country and, lenders all over what that looks like and how it would actually impact their borrowers and their real estate partners. I got to actually experience that firsthand. And it was just kind of a new way to look at it. I always tell people when I'm, talking about our product, I'm like, when your borrowers are looking at homes and they're on Zillow, they're on their couch and they want to know what their payment's going to look like before they even look at that house and step foot in it. It's really great to know what that looks like going into it. And I got to do that. I got to sit on my couch and look at one house, and another, and then tell my realtor, hey, I want to look at XYZ houses because these fall within what I'm willing to pay.
Yeah. And that's a huge time savings for your LO as well. So pivoting a little bit. So you guys give out at every conference. I've seen the dog toys, which are always a big hit, especially, at ICE.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, you flew home from the ICE mortgage conference to go to the closing table, which I don't think we've talked about yet. And that's crazy.
I wouldn't recommend it. It was exhausting. I mean, anyone who goes to the ICE conference knows the work that you're putting into it before and after on the lender side and vendor side is a lot. So just kind of throwing that all in the mix and going through all of the whole process to get to closing while also being in Vegas for the conference was interesting. But
it was a choice
you got to
you
do
made.
what you got to do and get it done.
But you guys give out branded dog toys because there's a dog thing and all that. So it's called Operation Fido, I'm told.
Yep. So anyone who knows me, anyone who's ever met me probably has heard about my dogs. So I have 2 dogs, big fan of dogs, and anyone who wants to show me their, photos, tell me all about them. So we have this one solution called Operation Fido, and pretty much it is all milestone based, and it allows your loan officers to be able to send out customized pet tags with the lender's branding to their borrowers once they close on their new home. So it's
adorable.
A very cute experience. And anyone who has pets, we get sometimes the borrowers will reply to the emails and we'll be on them and we'll see oh my God, my dog Bella just got her new tags. Thank you so much. Things like that. But it's just one of those little things that can really make the transaction feel so much more personal and just give that little, extra touch at the very end. And, those borrowers are going to remember you when it's time to refinance.
Absolutely. You're on your dog's tax. That's a big
Right.
deal. So as we wrap up here today, my favorite question to ask is, and our ending question really is, a lodestar is a guiding light in the night sky. And what do you view as your lodestar in your life, personally or professionally? You get to pick one, or you can pick both. It's totally up to you.
I would say both personally and professionally, my husband and my dogs are definitely, that shining light and that lodestar. Um, I say it all the time, and, it's as much as I talk about, my dogs and things like that, we truly bought a house for our dogs. Like, we don't have
Mhm.
kids. We're not quite sure what that path looks like so far. So having, two dogs that you want to give a yard to and give extra room to, that's, a motivating factor in a lot of aspects of life. And then, my we've been together for a very long time. So he's kind of witnessed me, go through college and then go through, that first full-time job I had that ultimately led me to LenderLogix. So he's
Mhm.
gotten to really witness that and see like the growth that I've had throughout the years and stuff like that. So just without his support and, the motivation of just giving my dogs the best life possible, I wouldn't do what I do.
Yeah, it's very true to mine. I have a little note that is a screenshot of my husband's. It's an iPhone screenshot that I have printed out and cut out and stuck on my wall. That is, we work to not only succeed in our careers, but to give our dog the best life possible. And it really is, she's 9, she's right here next to me. Most of the time when I record. So she's just living her best life, and we try every day to make sure it stays that way.
I feel that. I couldn't agree more.
So, well, thank you so much, Olga, for joining me today on Lending Leaders. Where can people find you if they're looking to connect?
Of course. Feel free to, reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me via email. My email's out there, so easy to find me that way as well. But yeah, we, go to a lot of conferences. So we're actually heading to the Great River Conference next week, actually. So we'll be there, myself and Patrick O'Brien, our CEO. But yeah, Alayna, it was very great to chat with you about this, and thank you for having me on.
Of course, yeah, and this will come out before Great River. So if you will be in Memphis, we'll also be there. So please come see us. I believe we're at a booth. I don't remember what booth number. I should know that. It's one towards the front of the room. You'd see us. We'll have toiletries, ibuprofen, liquid IV, anything you might need to survive a trade show. And then Pat and I are also both speaking during the 7 and 7 keynote session. So please come and give us a watch if you'll be there. So thank you so much,
Yeah,
Olga.
of course.
And thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see y'all next week.